Jealousy is nothing but silent applause from cowards too weak to clap in the open. Chosen ones, let that line settle deep inside you, because that is exactly what you've been dealing with your whole life. Every glare, every whisper, every fake laugh directed at you is not an insult. It's an admission. It's proof that you've already hit a nerve. Proof that your very existence makes people uncomfortable. Before you even speak, before you even show what you're capable of, they've already decided they don't like you. And it's not because you've wronged them, it's because your presence unmasks their own failures. Picture this. A lion doesn't apologize for walking through the jungle. It doesn't try to shrink itself to make the hyenas feel better. Its footsteps echo power. Its stare commands respect. And in that instant, the hyenas fall silent. That's you, chosen one. When you enter a room, their energy shifts. The jokes they were laughing at suddenly sound shallow. The confidence they were flexing suddenly collapses like weak glass. They hate you not for what you've done, but for who you are. Your aura doesn't just shine, it exposes. And when people live in shadows, light is their enemy. Here's what science says. Psychologists discovered that people compare themselves to others once every 10 minutes on average. That's in ordinary situations. Now imagine what happens when you walk in carrying survival, resilience, vision, and strength they've never managed to build. Suddenly, their measuring stick bends, their pride snaps, and their insecurities scream louder than words. They're not just watching you, they're weighing themselves against you. And every time they do, they come up short. That's why their smiles twitch. That's why their compliments are half-hearted. That's why their silence is heavy. You are the mirror they can't escape, and they hate the reflection. Chosen one, let me pause here. If you feel this message speaking to you, don't just listen, respond. Pay this energy back by hitting like and subscribe. We have a mission to spread this light wider. You're not just a viewer, you're part of a force that exposes lies, shakes foundations, and reminds the universe that truth cannot be silenced. Thank you for being part of this movement, chosen one. You are not here by accident. Now let's get back to it. Jealousy is the unpaid compliment of the weak, the proof they hand you without knowing it. They'll never admit they admire you, so they disguise it as hate. But listen closely, admiration and envy come from the same root. The only difference is that admiration claps for you, envy clenches its fists at you, and yet both are watching, both are paying attention, both are acknowledging you. So when they whisper, when they copy, when they roll their eyes, what they're really saying is, "You're the one we can't ignore." Think of it like this. You could be sitting at home in sweatpants, hair a mess, eating cereal out of the box, and still someone out there is scrolling through your life like it's the season finale of their favorite show. They're dissecting your posts, overanalyzing your moves, and comparing their every step to yours. They're not living, they're spectating. And you, chosen one, without even trying, became their main character. That's the irony. You didn't apply for the role. You never signed up to be their obsession. Yet here you are, shaping their moods, controlling their conversations, and haunting their insecurities. And here's a fact that will make you laugh. Studies show envy actually lights up the same parts of the brain as physical pain. That means when they see you shine, when they see you rise, it literally hurts them. Your success burns them like fire on bare skin. They want to smile through it, but the ache betrays them. They want to act unbothered, but their biology won't let them. So the next time you notice their fake laughter or their sudden silence, remember this. You're not imagining it. Your impact is real. Your presence is hitting them in the body like a punch they can't block. Chosen one, this is why their jealousy is so loud. You are not just walking through life, you are rewriting the script of their reality. You are the storm they never predicted, the earthquake that rattled their foundation, the fire that burned through their excuses. They hate you because your life is proof that resilience works, that authenticity wins, that scars can become armor. You survived storms that would have drowned them, and now your very survival feels like their defeat. They would rather believe you're lucky than admit you're strong. They would rather call you arrogant than admit you're gifted. Because to accept your truth means they'd have to face their lies. But listen carefully, this is not about ego, this is not about bragging, this is about truth. And the truth is, you've been underestimating your own influence. You think you're just living, but to them, you're thunder. You think you're just moving forward, but to them, every step you take is an earthquake. You think you're just surviving, but to them, you are proof that excuses are worthless. That's why they're restless. That's why they're angry. That's why you've got people mad and jealous everywhere you go. They can copy your style, but they can't copy your story. They can mimic your moves, but they can't replicate your scars. They can try to dim your light, but they can't put out the fire the universe planted in you. That's the part that kills them the most. They thought envy would destroy you, but all it did was expose them. All it did was reveal how fragile their confidence is, how shallow their achievements are, and how hollow their victories feel when compared to your authenticity. Chosen one, you're not just making ripples, you're shifting entire tides. You are not just leaving impressions, you're leaving scars in their pride. You are not just influencing a circle, you're haunting whole rooms. And the deeper truth? You've become more impactful than you ever believed. You may doubt yourself in quiet moments, but understand this: their jealousy is proof of your power. If you weren't a storm, nobody would notice. If you weren't fire, nobody would burn. If you weren't rising, nobody would try to pull you down. So hear me when I say this: buckle up. Because from here on out, we're going to expose every layer of why people are mad, why they're jealous, and why their envy is the clearest proof that you, chosen one, are making waves bigger than you ever thought possible. You are the storm they can't outrun, the force they can't silence, and the impact they can't erase. And chosen one, before we go any deeper, let me thank you for being here right now. This isn't just another video you stumbled across. This is a mirror of your reality. You've already seen the jealousy. You've already felt the silent hate. And you know deep down you've been making waves bigger than you realized. That's why it's so important you stay with me until the very end. Because once we break this down step by step, you'll never look at their envy the same way again. Drop a comment below with 777 if you're ready to claim the truth of your influence. And if you can, bless the team behind this message with a super thanks, because it takes real energy, time, and heart to bring these raw truths forward. Whether it's 1 cent or 1,000, your support pushes this mission further, and every bit of it fuels the light we're spreading together. So lock in, chosen one, because what's coming next is going to expose exactly why their jealousy is your loudest proof of power. Let's dive in. Number 1, they hate you because you're the mirror that shows their weakness. Nothing exposes a coward faster than standing next to someone who refuses to quit. Chosen ones, your very existence is a problem for people who've surrendered to mediocrity. You don't have to brag. You don't have to rub your wins in their face. You don't even have to try. The way you live burns a spotlight on all the compromises they've made with their own life. Every step you take forward is a reminder of the steps they never had the courage to take. You are not fighting them, but your growth is dragging their weakness into the open like a scar they can't hide. Think about it. When someone convinces themselves that good enough is all life has to offer, what happens when they stand next to someone who refuses to settle? It's like putting a candle beside a wildfire. Suddenly, their flame looks small, pathetic, almost meaningless. They can't ignore it. Your presence makes their excuses crumble. They hate you, not because you've wronged them, but because your resilience has already proven their excuses are lies. And here's what eats at them. They know you're not perfect. They know you've had setbacks, failures, nights when everything seemed broken. But instead of staying down, you got back up. Instead of using pain as a prison, you used it as fuel. That's what terrifies them, not your wins, but your refusal to stay defeated. Every time you rise, it reminds them of when they quit. Every time you push forward, it reopens the wound of their surrender. And instead of facing that guilt, they aim their bitterness at you. You might ask yourself, why are they so mad at me when I haven't done anything to them? The answer is simple. You've become the mirror they can't avoid. In you, they see the version of themselves they abandoned years ago. They see the dreams they buried, the courage they lacked, the fire they let burn out. And it stings. It stings so badly that instead of saying, if they can do it, so can I, they'd rather spit venom and call you arrogant, lucky, or too much. It's easier to attack you than admit the truth. They gave up on themselves. Here's the brutal fact. Human beings would rather project their failure than own it. Psychologists call this defensive projection, and it's why people who quit on themselves will label you as the problem. They can't accept their laziness, so they exaggerate your flaws. They can't admit their cowardice, so they demonize your courage. They can't stand their mediocrity, so they mock your excellence. But chosen one, every insult they throw at you is just a twisted confession of their own weakness. Imagine this. You survived storms they never would have lasted through. You built progress with fewer resources than they had. You kept moving when life told you to stop. That contrast is brutal, and it burns them alive. Instead of asking, if they made it with less, what's my excuse? They attack you. Instead of being inspired, they become bitter. Instead of pushing forward, they waste energy trying to drag you down. But here's the truth. You didn't ask to be their measuring stick. You didn't beg to be their reminder. You're just living, and your life is enough to rip apart the lies they tell themselves for comfort. Let's be clear, you are not their enemy. You never came to judge anyone, but your presence alone is judgment they can't escape. Your survival is proof their weakness was optional. Your progress is proof their excuses were lies. Your light is proof their shadows were self-made, and that's why they can't stand you. Not because of who you hurt, but because of who you prove they could have been. Comparison is the thief of joy, but when it comes to the jealous, comparison is their prison. They don't just compare, they obsess. They measure their every move against yours, and every time they come up short, their envy grows louder. That's why they'll whisper your name behind closed doors. That's why they'll roll their eyes when your success is mentioned. And that's why they'll downplay your victories. It's not that you're too much. It's that they're too little, and you remind them of it. But let me ask you, chosen one, would you really want to trade places with them? Would you really want to shrink just so they feel tall? Would you want to give up your strength so they can keep their illusions? The answer is no. Their bitterness is proof of your impact. Their hate is confirmation of your power. Their envy is the receipt that shows you've already outgrown the cage they built for themselves. Metaphorically, your life is a lighthouse on a dark shore. You don't shine to expose anyone, but your light reveals the wreckage they've accepted as normal. Some will steer toward you, thankful you exist. Others will curse you, angry that your light revealed the fact they were drifting with no direction. Either way, you are undeniable. Either way, your existence forces them to face themselves. And here's the irony that cuts deepest. You're not even trying to make an impact. You're just being you. You're just surviving, growing, refusing to quit. And yet, that alone is enough to shake their world, to break their illusions, and to make their mediocrity unbearable. That's why your existence bothers them, because it calls out what they chose not to fight for. So let them hate, let them whisper, let them choke on their envy. Every time they do, it's proof you're living at a level they couldn't reach. It's proof your fire burns hotter than their excuses. It's proof that your refusal to quit has already made you unstoppable. Remember this: the ones who throw the most shade are always the ones standing in the shadows. And you, chosen one, were born to shine in the light. Number 2. Your presence speaks louder than their loudest lies. Power doesn't shout, it's the silence that makes the room shake. Chosen ones, your impact begins long before the crowd notices, long before the applause, long before the recognition. It starts in silence. The kind of silence that makes insecure people fidget in their seats, stumble in their conversations, or feel a tension they can't explain. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to beg for attention. Your presence alone rearranges the atmosphere. And that's what drives them mad. Jealousy is the tribute mediocrity pays to greatness. Remember this: when you walk into a room, you're not just another body in the crowd. You are the shift. Conversations take a turn. Laughter suddenly feels forced. Energy bends around you like gravity pulling objects into orbit. People can't put it into words, but they know something just changed. They don't admit it, but they feel smaller in your presence, as if your silence is louder than their performance. Imagine this: a stone drops into still water. No sound lasts longer than a few seconds, but the ripples expand far beyond where the stone landed. That's you, chosen one. You don't have to scream to leave an impact. Your quiet presence alone causes ripple effects in people's minds long after you've gone. They replay your words, your expressions, even the way you carried yourself without speaking. While others perform for validation, you leave fingerprints on souls by simply being real. Here's the part that infuriates them: presence can't be faked, it can't be bought, it can't be copied. Presence is born from storms survived, scars carried, and truths never compromised. That's why your silence is heavier than their loudest bragging. They can buy followers, rent luxury, or fake confidence, but when you show up, their masks feel like paper compared to your steel. Silence is the language of strength. Chosen one, you've probably asked yourself, why do people act strange when I walk in? Why does the energy shift when I'm just being me? The answer is simple. Your energy exposes them. Your groundedness highlights their chaos. Your authenticity makes their performance look cheap. You don't intend to do it, but you do it anyway. It's not your fault their noise collapses in the presence of your silence. Imagine this: a candle in a dark room glows bright until someone opens the window and sunlight floods in. The candle is still burning, but suddenly it feels irrelevant. That's what happens when you walk in. Their fake confidence, their staged charisma, their loud laughter all seem weaker when held next to the authenticity you carry. You are the sunlight that makes their candles unnecessary, and it terrifies them. Another truth: your impact is felt before it's seen. Studies show that humans can pick up on energy shifts subconsciously within seconds of a new person entering the space. It's not mystical, it's psychological. They sense the weight you carry before they can rationalize it, and when they can't explain it, jealousy fills the gap. They'll call you different with disdain, when what they really mean is, I feel exposed around you. Real power doesn't announce itself, it just walks in and changes everything. Think of it this way, most people chase validation like beggars. They craft appearances, repeat rehearsed lines, try desperately to stick in people's minds. And still, their impact fades the moment they leave. But you don't chase anyone. You don't beg for attention. You're not even trying to impress. Yet you linger. They can't stop thinking about you. They replay the moment you entered, the tone of your voice, the steadiness of your silence. It gnaws at them because they realize they'll never command a room the way you do, not without faking it. Imagine this. A wolf walks into a clearing, silent, steady, eyes locked forward. The rabbits stop mid-motion. The birds fall quiet. The forest itself shifts. The wolf didn't make a sound, but its presence altered the entire environment. That's you. You don't need to prove yourself. The environment bends to your energy. Some are inspired, some are intimidated, and others turn green with envy. But the truth remains. Your silence shakes them harder than their loudest performance. And chosen one, maybe you've wondered, but if my silence is this powerful, why don't I always see the results? That's because impact is not always visible in the moment. It's like an earthquake. The tremors are felt before the cracks appear. Just because you don't see immediate changes doesn't mean you haven't shifted the ground under their feet. Your presence plants seeds of awareness, insecurity, or inspiration that keep growing long after you've left. Presence is born from scars that performance can never fake. They envy you because you earned what they try to imitate. They practice being likable, but you embody authenticity. They rehearse confidence, but you live resilience. They shout to be heard, but you whisper and still echo. That contrast gnaws at them. It makes them restless. It makes them jealous, because they know deep down what you have can't be bought, can't be taught, can't be stolen. It has to be survived into existence, and they didn't survive, they folded. Imagine this, two trees in a storm. One is shallow-rooted, snapping at the first strong wind. The other has roots so deep it bends but never breaks. When the storm passes, the shallow tree is gone, but the rooted one still stands tall, silent, unshaken. That's you, chosen one. Your presence is the tree that stood. The storm gave you roots, and those roots now give you presence. When they see you, they see proof that you can't be broken. And that reminder of their own weakness is what fuels their envy. So let them talk, let them roll their eyes, let them fill rooms with noise, because at the end of the day, their noise vanishes the second they leave, while your silence lingers like thunder in the distance. That's the difference between performance and presence. That's why their jealousy burns so hot, because your quiet strength exposes their desperate noise. You don't need to explain your power. You don't need to announce your impact. You simply are, and that alone is enough to unsettle them, inspire others, and prove the undeniable truth. Real power doesn't need permission, validation, or performance. Real power just walks in, shifts the air, and leaves everyone different than before. And chosen one, that power is you. Number 3. They envy you because their pain broke them, but yours forged you. Some people drown in the same storms that teach others how to swim. Chosen one, that's why they can't stand you. They watched you walk through battles that should have left you broken, silent, and stuck, and instead you came out with fire in your eyes and strength in your bones. Your survival alone is enough to rattle their pride because it exposes the truth they're too afraid to admit. When life tested them, they folded. When life tested you, you sharpened. Think about it. Most people expect trauma to cage you. They expect heartbreak to turn you bitter, failure to make you small, pain to keep you down. But you flipped the script. You walked through fire and didn't come out smelling like smoke. You came out tempered, like steel pulled from flame, and that burns them because they know deep down, if they went through what you did, they wouldn't have made it. Imagine this. Two people stand at the edge of the same storm. One lets the rain drown them, the other learns to dance in it. That's you. You didn't just survive, you transformed. You turned scars into armor, wounds into wisdom, pain into power. And now, every time they look at you, they see proof that their excuses are paper thin. Resilience is a crown the weak will never wear. That's what they envy. Not the fact that you survived, but the way you refuse to stay a victim. Many never leave their pit. They replay the same hurts, the same failures over and over until bitterness defines them. But you broke the cycle. You climbed out, and instead of dragging your past like chains, you forged it into authority. Authority that makes people respect you without even knowing why. Authority that makes your silence louder than their loudest complaints. And here's the part that crushes them. Your story proves pain doesn't have to be the end. It can be a rebirth. That's why they're jealous, because you're living proof of what they could have been if they hadn't quit. They see you, and their excuses disintegrate. And rather than change, they choose envy. So let them stare, let them hate, because every glance of jealousy is just proof that you did what they couldn't. You turned tragedy into strength and weakness into a weapon they'll never hold. Number 4, your imagination outruns their entire existence. Small minds hate big visions because it reminds them how tiny their world really is. Chosen one, this is why they can't stand you. Most people live inside boxes so small they can barely breathe. Their days revolve around bills, gossip, routines, and survival loops that they've convinced themselves are good enough. That's their entire world, predictable, safe, and painfully limited. Then you show up, not talking about scraps, not dreaming about comfort, but building possibilities so large it makes their walls feel like cages, and that terrifies them. Imagine this, someone has lived their whole life in a dimly lit room, and then you throw open the window to show them the horizon. At first, they're shocked. Then, instead of being inspired, they panic, because your vision reveals how small they've been living. They're not jealous of your money, your status, or your possessions. What burns them alive is that your mind refuses to shrink into the prison they've accepted as home. Vision is the enemy of comfort zones. And chosen one, you've made peace with potential, not with limits. That's what separates you. While they cling to their boundaries, you break them. While they settle for ceilings, you look for skies. Every time you plan, every time you act, every time you speak about what's possible, it forces them to confront the fact that they gave up on dreaming long ago. They'll try to drag you down with words. They'll call your focus obsession. They'll mock your ambition as arrogance. But that's not truth. It's fear speaking, because deep down, they know they can't keep up. They know your vision runs faster than their excuses. They know no amount of criticism can cage the way you think. And that's what gnaws at them in silence. Your perspective exposes their limits, and they can't forgive you for that. So understand this, chosen one, their jealousy isn't about what you have, it's about what you see. Your vision is freedom. Your vision is expansion. Your vision is proof that life can be bigger, bolder, and wilder than they ever dared to believe. And that truth, it makes them burn with envy, even behind the fakest of smiles. Number 5. They hate that your silence pulls. Crowds, their noise can't keep. Real influence doesn't beg to be seen. It forces the room to rearrange around it. Chosen one, this is exactly why they envy you. You don't scream for attention. You don't have to bend over backwards to be noticed. You don't audition for applause. Your energy alone commands it. People lean in when you speak, even if you only say a few words. They follow your lead without you asking, because your presence speaks louder than their entire performance. And that kills them inside. Imagine this: a moth spends its life beating its fragile wings against light bulbs, desperate for glow. Then the sun rises, and suddenly all that flapping looks ridiculous. That's you. They hustle, they scheme, they beg, they calculate every move for recognition, and yet, next to you, all their effort looks like scraps. You don't even try, and still, eyes follow you. That effortless pull exposes their truth. No amount of bragging, manipulating, or clout chasing can match the magnetism you carry naturally. Attention earned through desperation dies as fast as it arrives. Attention earned through presence becomes legend. That's the difference between you and them. They measure worth by applause, by numbers, by who notices them. You measure worth by staying authentic, consistent, and unshaken. Your influence isn't transactional, it's born from alignment. Who you are on the inside matches what you radiate on the outside, and that's something they will never be able to fake. And chosen one, maybe you've asked, why are they so bitter when I never asked to be seen? Because every nod you receive, every moment someone pauses to hear you, is proof that influence isn't about desperation. It's about presence. And your presence makes their struggle look pitiful. They fight to be seen and still go unnoticed. You exist, and the room bends toward you. That contrast is unbearable for them. So let them envy, let them choke on the attention they can't capture, because every glance you attract without effort is a reminder that real power doesn't chase, it simply is, and you, chosen one, are living proof. Number 6. Your truth burns holes through their costumes. Authenticity is the one thing a liar can never imitate. Chosen one, this is why your presence makes them squirm. You show up raw, unfiltered, unedited, exactly as you are. You don't bend your spine just to please. You don't shapeshift to fit in. You refuse to wear the masks they've spent their whole lives gluing to their faces, and that alone is enough to make them itch with jealousy and discomfort. Imagine this. A spotlight shines onto a stage. One actor is masked, caked in makeup, rehearsing their fake smile. Then beside them walks someone with no mask, no script, just truth. Instantly, the audience sees the difference. The mask looks cheap, the act looks forced, and the one who is real commands the attention without even trying. That's what happens when you walk into their world. You don't play games, and your honesty exposes how flimsy theirs really is. Truth doesn't compete with lies, it dissolves them. That's why their envy flares around you. They've invested years, even decades, into building personas stitched together with half-truths and appearances. They thought charm, manipulation, and filters would protect them. But every time you breathe freely in your authenticity, their masks start to crack. You don't attack them, but your existence unmasks them. And nothing terrifies the fake more than being revealed. You may wonder, why do they resent me when I'm not even trying to expose anyone? Because authenticity doesn't have to try. It naturally highlights the gap between reality and illusion. Every step you take, every word you speak without performance reflects back to them what they've been hiding. And that mirror is brutal. It shows them exactly how small their masks look next to your rawness. Imagine their discomfort like this. They're clinging to costumes made of tissue paper, and you walk in carrying the fire of truth. Their envy isn't just about your strength, it's about their fragility. And instead of being inspired to live honestly, they weaponize jealousy as a defense. So let them itch, chosen one. Let their masks slip. Because your authenticity isn't just real, it's revolutionary. And every time you thrive without disguise, you remind them that truth will always outlast performance. Number 7. Your independence turns their importance into dust. Nothing terrifies the insecure more than realizing they were never needed. Chosen one, that's exactly why your existence shakes people to their core. You don't beg for approval. You don't chase validation. You don't cling to anyone just to feel whole. You stand firm, rooted in your own independence, and that alone rattles those who rely on constant attention to feel significant. Imagine this. They've built their identity like a crumbling tower, propped up by applause, likes, and outside recognition. Then you walk in, unbothered, steady, thriving without a single crutch. Suddenly, their tower feels flimsy next to the fortress you've built within yourself. They panic, not because you attacked them, but because your strength silently exposes how weak their foundation really is. Dependence is slavery dressed as connection. That's the truth they can't bear. When they see you living freely, not hinging your stability on anyone's approval, their fear mutates into envy. They realize their so-called importance in your life doesn't exist. You could walk away today and still remain unshaken. And that truth burns because it forces them to see that their relevance was always optional. You might wonder, but I never tried to make them feel small. Why do they resent me? Because independence is a mirror. Your ability to stand alone reflects back their desperation to cling. Your calm exposes their chaos. Your wholeness shows them how incomplete they are without external props. And instead of facing that truth, they project their fear onto you. Imagine this. 2 trees side by side. One needs ropes and stakes to stand straight. The other grows tall on its own. Which one commands respect? Which one looks weak? That's the metaphor of your life, chosen one. You are the tree that grew strong without support, and they are the one tied down, praying the ropes don't snap. Your freedom is the proof they can't stomach. So let them envy, let them stew in their fear of being replaceable, because every time you thrive without leaning on anyone, you prove a brutal truth. You were always enough on your own, and they were never required for your survival. Number 8. Your evolution turned their comfort zones into coffins. Nothing exposes failure faster than standing next to someone who refuses to stay the same. Chosen one, that's why they can't stand you. You didn't remain stuck. You didn't cling to outdated versions of yourself just to make people comfortable. You shed skin after skin, like a snake outgrowing cages, and every time you transformed, you made their stagnation look like slow death. They told themselves their routines were enough, that playing small was safe. But then you rose, and their excuses turned into ashes. Imagine this. A pond that never moves becomes green with decay, while the river beside it keeps flowing, carving new paths, shaping landscapes impossible to ignore. That's you. You kept moving, kept growing, while they stayed still, bragging about consistency that was really just fear dressed as stability. And now, your transformation has become the living proof that their comfort zone wasn't safety. It was a coffin. Growth is offensive to those committed to standing still. Every new version of yourself was a mirror they couldn't escape. Your strength revealed their weakness. Your wisdom revealed their ignorance. Your confidence exposed their fear. Instead of being inspired to rise with you, they grew bitter because your evolution crushed the stories they tell themselves about why they can't change. You might wonder, why do they call me lucky when they watched me struggle? Because that's the only lie they can cling to. Admitting you chose to grow means admitting they chose not to. Admitting your evolution was built in storms, not comfort, means facing the truth that they surrendered while you kept climbing. It's easier for them to brand you as privileged than to face the fact that courage, not circumstance, is what separates you. Imagine this: a caterpillar crawls, content with its small world, while beside it the butterfly emerges, wings stretched wide. The butterfly didn't wait for permission, it transformed because it had to. That's you, chosen one. Your growth was inevitable, and every flight you take makes their crawling look pitiful. So let them whisper, let them seethe. Because every stage you ascend is living proof that transformation is possible, and that their stagnation was nothing but fear they disguised as comfort. Number 9. Your echo haunts them louder than their screams. Real presence is proven when people still feel you long after you've walked away. Chosen one, this is why they hate you. You can leave a room, close a conversation, or disappear from a space. And yet, the atmosphere you created still lingers. They replay your words. They replay your gestures. They replay the silence you carried that bent the energy around them. You don't force it. You don't plan it. You don't manipulate it. Your impact is natural, undeniable, and unforgettable, and that drives them mad. Imagine this: fireworks explode in the sky, loud, flashy, impossible to ignore, but within seconds it's nothing but smoke fading in the dark. Then compare that to thunder. It cracks once and the echo rolls across miles, shaking windows long after the sound began. That's the difference between them and you. They are fireworks, noisy but temporary. You are thunder, one strike that reverberates endlessly. Substance will always outlast performance. They struggle to be noticed even when they're right there, doing the most, fighting for scraps of recognition. Meanwhile, you exist authentically, and your influence follows people out the door. That contrast is unbearable. Their gimmicks fade the moment they stop talking, but you leave a mark so deep it becomes part of the room itself. You may ask, why are they jealous if I'm not even present? Because that's exactly the wound. Your absence is louder than their presence. Your name comes up in conversations when you're not around, and that stings them because it proves you don't need to be seen to be remembered. They can't replicate that kind of resonance. No script, no charm, no trick can create the weight of authenticity. Imagine walking into wet cement, leaving deep footprints. Even when you leave, the mark stays. That's your presence, chosen one. Every space you enter gets stamped with your energy, and the impression outlasts you. Their envy comes from realizing that no matter how hard they try, they can't plant themselves in people's minds the way you do effortlessly. So let them burn. Because every time your name echoes after you're gone, it's proof that your power is real, and their performance was nothing but noise, lost to silence. Number 10. You turn scarcity into power, and it shames their abundance. Strength isn't measured by what you're given, but by what you create when you have nothing. Chosen one, this is why they can't stomach you. They've been told their whole lives that success comes from privilege, wealth, connections, titles, or status. Then you step into the picture, and the equation falls apart. You do more with less. You create opportunity out of scraps. You thrive in places where others collapse, and the very sight of that shakes them to their core. Imagine this. Two fighters step into the ring. One is armored head to toe, backed by trainers, padded by wealth. The other walks in barefoot, scarred, carrying nothing but grit. And yet, when the bell rings, it's the unarmored one who wins. That's you. You've turned scarcity into a weapon sharper than anything privilege could buy. Your victories aren't supposed to exist, and yet they do, and that's why your strength enrages them. Privilege without persistence is just wasted potential. That's the uncomfortable truth your life screams at them. They had more resources, more support, more safety nets, yet you, with less, moved further. You built results from raw resilience while they wasted their advantages chasing comfort. Every step you take forward is a reminder that the only thing they're missing isn't tools, it's heart. And here's what burns them the most. You make it look effortless. You move through obstacles with a calm they can't understand. You turn blocks into stepping stones while they complain about their ceilings. They look at your progress, then at their own, and the jealousy festers because the math doesn't add up. How did you pass them with half the tools? How do you carry strength with none of the advantages? The answer is brutal. Resilience can't be bought, and you were forged in fire they've never survived. Imagine a seed dropped in cracked concrete, pushing through stone until it finds the sun. Meanwhile, pampered seeds in perfect soil wither because no one watered them. That's the metaphor of your life. You thrived where you weren't supposed to, and that truth exposes the fraud in their comfort. So let them envy, chosen one, because your strength proves success isn't about what you hold, it's about what you're made of. And you, without question, are made of more than they could ever imagine. Number 11. Your rejection becomes fuel, theirs becomes a funeral. Rejection doesn't destroy the strong, it destroys the weak who never learn to stand alone. Chosen one, this is why they can't stand you. They expect rejection to crush you. They expect closed doors to leave you begging, desperate, crawling for validation. They expect failure to silence you. But instead, you pivot, you rebuild, you create new doors where none existed. And every time you do, it shatters their illusions about strength. Imagine this. Two people get hit by the same wave. One sinks, coughing, flailing, screaming for rescue. The other learns to ride it, letting the water carry them to the shore. That's you. While rejection drowns them, you convert it into momentum. And that terrifies them because it exposes the fragile truth they've been hiding. They only feel strong when they're accepted, and you feel strong even when you're not. Rejection is not the end, it's redirection. That's the lesson your life screams at them. They look at you and see someone who refuses to measure their worth by outside approval. You don't beg for acceptance. You don't whine when you're overlooked. You just move forward, faster, stronger. And that resilience is unbearable for those whose identities crumble the moment someone tells them no. You might wonder, why do they envy me for handling rejection? Because your response highlights their weakness. For them, rejection is humiliation. For you, rejection is information, a sign to pivot, a spark to build better. Your ability to absorb disappointment without losing momentum makes their fragility look like failure. Imagine watching someone strike a match, and instead of it going out in the wind, it turns into wildfire. That's what your resilience looks like. Every rejection you faced should have dimmed you, but instead, it lit you up brighter. And now, every time they see you thriving in places they thought you'd collapse, jealousy becomes the only reaction they can hide behind. So let them burn quietly, chosen one, because every no you've faced has become a hammer that forged you into steel. Their anger is proof of this truth. Where they would have held a funeral for their dreams, you built a foundation for your empire. Number 12. Your inner authority shatters their hollow crowns. True power isn't worn, it's carried. Chosen one, this is why you rattle people to their core. The world is obsessed with status, titles, followers, possessions, the empty symbols of success. That's what most people chase, because they believe influence must be earned through props. Then you walk in, no crown, no clout, no spotlight, and yet the atmosphere bends around you. Your very existence rewrites their script. Imagine this: a man draped in gold stands in a room, flaunting his wealth, and people clap out of habit. Then beside him enters someone with nothing but presence, steady eyes, unshakable energy, undeniable truth. Suddenly the room shifts. The applause dies. The man in gold feels invisible next to the one with no costume at all. That's you. Their symbols mean nothing when faced with the authority you carry within. Status can buy attention, but it can't buy respect. That's the difference they can't accept. Their power is rented. It depends on titles, networks, or applause. Strip those away and they collapse. But you walk in stripped of everything they worship, and you're still undeniable. Because your authority wasn't bought, it was built from survival, authenticity, and the depth of experience they can't fake. You might ask, why does my presence bother them so much? Because it exposes the fragility of their thrones. They know without their props, they are nothing. They know without applause, their relevance vanishes. Meanwhile, you carry weight that doesn't vanish when the lights go out. You don't need validation to move a room. You don't need wealth to command respect. And that truth unsettles them more than anything you could ever say. Imagine social status as paper crowns handed out at a cheap carnival, colorful, flimsy, forgotten the moment the ride ends. Then imagine authority as a diamond forged under pressure, unbreakable, glowing no matter where it's placed. That's the gap between them and you. Their crowns crumble. Your authority endures. So let them envy, chosen one, because your existence proves that influence rooted in spirit, truth, and resilience will always outweigh the shallow power of titles. And no matter how loud they cheer for their illusions, your silent authority will always outlast their noise. Number 13. Your brilliance burns through their shadows. Light doesn't ask permission to reveal what darkness hides. Chosen one, this is why your presence unsettles them. You don't have to point fingers. You don't have to expose anyone. Your very existence does it. The moment you walk into a room, illusions start to crumble. The polished masks they've worked so hard to maintain begin to slip, because your authenticity leaves no safe place for lies to hide. Imagine this: someone dimming the lights in a room, convinced no one can see the dirt in the corners. Then suddenly, a floodlight switches on, and every speck of dust becomes visible. That's what happens when you show up. You reflect what's real, not just the images people polish for others, but also the bitterness, jealousy, and insecurity they thought was invisible. You don't even try to reveal it. You just live in your truth. And that truth makes their shadows scream. Shame is a mask that melts in the presence of authenticity. That's why they resent you. They thought they had their pain disguised, their envy tucked away, their bitterness hidden behind charm. But when you stand in the room, the contrast makes it obvious. And instead of facing the discomfort of their own reflection, they project it onto you. It's easier for them to call you intimidating, too much, or arrogant than it is to admit the truth. Your light exposed the very things they were desperate to keep buried. You may ask, Why do they get jealous when my light isn't even aimed at them? Because light doesn't aim, it just shines. And when it shines, it reveals. Whether they like it or not, your presence forces them to face their own shadows. For people who live behind illusions, that's terrifying. They aren't afraid of you, they're afraid of what you make them see about themselves. Imagine a roach scrambling when the kitchen light flips on. It's not the bulb they hate, it's what the bulb reveals. That's their relationship with you. Your light is proof that no matter how carefully they've built their disguises, truth always finds its way through. So let them cope with jealousy, because every time your brilliance burns through their shadows, it proves one thing: you were never the danger. Their own darkness was. Chosen one, if this message lit something inside you, remember, it's not by accident. The jealousy, the resistance, the envy, it's all proof of your impact. You've already shaken rooms and exposed illusions just by being who you are. That's power. Now, if you haven't already, press that like button to push this truth further. And if you're still not part of our family, hit subscribe right now and join this movement. Together, we spread light, strength, and unstoppable resilience. You are not alone. You are part of a force that cannot be silenced. Stay powerful, chosen one.